Hey everybody, happy Monday.
Happy Monday everyone. We have another video in the series of what went wrong. Here we've got two scenarios for you to test your knowledge. What would you tell these people if they asked this question? And by the way, these are actually questions we've gotten either in the live streams or on some of our videos. So let's go ahead and see how you do. Scenario number one, what do we got?
Let's see. All right, problem number one. You've just set up your aquarium and it's a betta tank. It's been 2 days and you have two problems. One, your water is really cloudy. Two, you've got some white slimy stuff growing on your driftwood. Just so you know, you've rinsed your gravel before even putting it in, and your water parameters are just fine. You've tested it, and there's 0 ammonia, 0 nitrates, and 0 nitrites. What went wrong?
So pause it. Let's see what you can come up with, and then check back after you thought about it for a couple minutes. All right, so what was the issue? By the way, again, this is a question that we have received multiple times. This exact scenario might not be a 5-gallon, might not be just a betta tank, but it's the same general thing where we've set up a tank, we've got cloudy water, we've got some stuff growing on the wood, and the water parameters are all wonderful, 0 ammonia, nitrite, nitrate. I would say the first thing, one of the first things that would probably cause you to pause is the water parameters are perfect with 0 ammonia, 0 nitrite, and 0 nitrate. I think for those of you who are experienced, you realize that's not all that perfect given the fact that usually a cycled tank, the microbes in that tank are producing nitrate. So the fact that they're all 0 says to me, along with the fact that it's only been 2 days, this is an uncycled tank. This is a fish-in cycling process that's happening. And although we don't have the ammonia and nitrite spikes yet, chances are very good we've got a bacterial bloom going on in the water. Now, the slimy wood, what say you?
Well, that happens with a lot of different driftwood, and it's totally natural. It's kind of like a fungus or a mold, and it will eventually be either eaten off by the fish if you have certain fish that like to take care of it for you, or it'll just kind of wash off eventually after water changes. Now, the easiest way to get it off of the driftwood, I find, is a toothbrush. You just kind of brush it off and then go and find it throughout the fish tank and get rid of it this way. So it's a minor inconvenience for a short amount of time.
Now, the cloudy water thing, as I've mentioned, this is probably a bacterial bloom due to the fact that the tank is not cycled yet. The way to deal with that, one, we start doing some water changes to deal with the cloudiness, but two, we want to add, at this point, the fish are already in there. We're going to need to add some live nitrifying bacteria like a Fritzyme 7. That's going to allow the microbes that are added to the tank to start breaking down the ammonia that the fish is inevitably going to be producing that will be building in the tank in this coming few days or weeks. So that's how I would deal with that. It's not an overwhelmingly difficult problem to deal with, but if you jump on it soon, it will not wind up being a much larger problem later.
Problem number two. Is everybody ready? Okay, this one, your tank was set up 2 months ago. Your fish are doing great, everything's great, but then you notice brown diatom algae all throughout your tank. What happened?
All right, so once again, pause. Come up with a solution to this problem. This is one that we've seen quite a bit. Usually when we're dealing with brown diatom algae, there's a few things I want to address. This is not necessarily any one thing that's going to work 100% of the time, but if you combine different strategies, this is going to help. So if you said, what about the lights? I would agree with you. Check the light duration and the light intensity. Sometimes we can't do anything about the light intensity. We have a light, it's either turning on or it's turning off. But if you can adjust the light intensity, maybe we want to kick that down just a little bit. Light duration, if you've got your lights on for 12, 13, 15 hours a day, that might be too long given the natural ecosystem of that tank. The other thing to deal with is, or other thing to look at, water parameters. We don't want to have too much food out there for that brown diatom algae to eat. And what that means is we really want to make sure we're controlling nitrate levels. We can do that in a number of different ways. One, water changes, as I started to allude. We want to keep our nitrates at around 20 parts per million or less. If you combine that with controlling lights, and again, for us, we keep our lights on around 9 hours a day, split between morning and night, that's certainly going to help. The other thing to consider, and I think you've done a video on some of this before, what can we add?
Plants. That's pretty much the main reason that I throw hornwort into a tank, is it's very fast growing. It just kind of hangs out at the top of your tank and it sucks up a lot of that stuff, along with, you can use other floating plants, water wisteria, lots of different choices.
You've got water sprite, you've got some of the floating plants. I know some of us maybe don't like duckweed or salvinia or the redwood floaters, but the point is you want to have fast growing plants that are easy to care for, and they're going to compete with the brown algae for the nitrates that are in the tank. The third and final thing that you could consider is adding organisms that are going to eat the algae. And depending on the size of the tank, if it's a smaller tank, you're looking at snails, like nearite snails or mystery snails. Those would be perfectly acceptable, even all the way down to a 2.5 gallon tank. If your tank is getting a little bit larger, let's say at least a 10 gallon, you've got the clown plecos. Larger than that, you've got otocinclus, you've got your bristlenose plecos. All of those can certainly help. So the bottom line is, when it comes to these brown diatom algae, it really is, what's my lights, my water parameters, especially nitrate? Do I have anything in there plant-wise that can compete with the brown diatom algae? Do I have anything in the tank that can eat it? So those were a couple scenarios. Would love to hear from you what your thoughts were down in the comment section below. Appreciate you being here, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.